Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the internet, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an honor and a privilege to have you guys joining me here today, as it is every day, as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, and all that type of stuff. Whole bunch of stuff we got to talk about today. We're going to talk about, could Denzel actually end up being in Scarface? That's been a word that's been around for a little while. There's going to be a Supergirl movie apparently in development. Bautista has pretty much critically stated he wants out of Guardians of the Galaxy. Will Disney let him do that? But before we get to any of that, let's go right off the top with getting a little bit of house cleaning done here. As you guys may remember, on yesterday's John Campea Show, our question of the day was simple. In the upcoming Venom movie, do you think there's going to be any direct references to Spider-Man? The Spider-Man logo on them, maybe they're just hiding that in the trailers, direct mentioning of Spider-Man, stuff like that. Yes or no? And surprise, surprise, you guys went against what I said, which is no surprise, really. Here's where the results of the poll. You guys said 57.47% of you guys said, yes, we will see a direct reference to Spider-Man in the Venom movie, whereas the minority of you, although it was pretty close, 42.53 agreed with me, thinking that, no, there probably won't be any references. So there you have it, guys. The ayes have it. You guys say, by a slim margin, not terribly slim, but by a pretty close margin, you guys say we will see a Spider-Man reference in the Venom movie. And there will, of course, be another question of the day today, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. Okay, let's get to some of the news here. We all know that there is a live-action Star Wars movie coming. We know this. It's coming, it's on the way, all that kind of good stuff. But we haven't known much about it. Now we do know a few more things, according to several reports in the New York Times and elsewhere. Now, we've known that Jon Favreau, of course, the guy behind Iron Man 2, and The Jungle Book, and the new Lion King movie that's coming out, he's writing and producing this new series. It's going to be a 10-episode series. But what we have just learned is that this is going to be one of the most expensive television shows ever made. According to the New York Times, they're saying that this new series, this 10-episode series, is going to cost $100 million to make, making it one of the most expensive television shows in history. Elsewhere also, there are reports that the crux of this show will take place after the events of Return of the Jedi and will take place on Mandalore. Now, for those of you who are familiar with Star Wars lore, Mandalore, well, that's the place where the Boba Fett armor comes from. We got into Mandalore and the Mandalorians a little bit more in Star Wars Rebels and things like that. We've gone a little bit further into the lore there. The reports are saying that the show will take place on Mandalore several years after the events of Return of the Jedi, and it's going to be with Mandalore now kind of struggling to figure out its place in the universe at that point. So there's obviously going to be a lot of internal drama, some Game of Thrones stuff going on there. So that sounds intriguing. So this could be terrible, but it looks like Disney is putting a big budget behind it. You've got a filmmaker like Jon Favreau writing it and producing it. A lot of people are going to be very excited to hear if the reports are true, and let's emphasize that, if the reports are true. A lot of people are going to be very excited that it's going to be taking place on Mandalore, and somebody like me, I'm very excited about the time period. I'd love to see some of the things that happen immediately after things. Now, again, I'm not big on moving backwards in storytelling, but these are completely new sets of characters, telling a completely new story. So for me, even though it's taking place just after Return of the Jedi, it's not a story being told backwards because this is a completely new story. It's completely new characters. Because of that, I'm excited about it. Let's see how true these reports end up being. But I got to tell you, what I'm hearing from these right now, this is all good news. It doesn't mean the show will be any good, but right now it's at least pretty good news. All right, let's move on to the next item. And the next item is this. Some of you might have seen a few trailers coming out for the new Johnny Depp, Forest Whitaker movie, City of Lies, based on the murder of Notorious B.I.G., Biggie Smalls. Well, you guys have been seeing the trailers, and guess what? The movie's supposed to be coming out next month, and now it's not. Suddenly, out of nowhere yesterday, the studio pulled the film off its release schedule. It will no longer be released in theaters. Now, it should be mentioned right now that there's been no official statement saying it will never be put back on the release schedule. They may put it back on the release schedule at some time. They're not saying they're now sending this movie direct to home video or anything. and they gave no official reason for why they pulled it. Now, there are some people speculating, understandably so, that they pulled it because of all the drama and nonsense surrounding Johnny Depp. They feel that might be a hindrance to the film, all that kind of stuff. I'll tell you why I think they pulled it. And this is not based on anything except my own speculation. The reason I think they pulled this movie was because the trailer did nothing for this movie. I've seen the trailer a number of times and I felt nothing. It just felt odd and awkward. And I can't help but feel that they pulled this movie thinking no one's talking about this film. For us to put this out in theaters now, it's just going to cost us more money and no one's talking about it. But I also am going to speculate this. And again, this is my speculation. I'm wondering if they're pulling this off the release schedule and they may sit on this movie for a while until after Fantastic Beasts 2 and the Crimes of Grindelwald comes out. Because Johnny Depp got a pretty positive response at Comic-Con coming out on stage as Grindelwald, right? And I can't help but wonder if they feel like when Fantastic Beasts 2 comes out, it will change the narrative a little bit for Johnny Depp. It will paint Johnny Depp in a little bit of a different light. There might be some more favorable feelings towards Johnny Depp when that movie comes out. And if that's the case, would it benefit us, if I'm the studio, would it benefit us to hold off on this thing and release it after that? Because then maybe it changes the narrative a bit. I mean, I don't know. Again, I'm just speculating. But what we do know at this point is that the movie's been pulled off just a month before it's supposed to be released. That's never a good sign. No official explanation, no mention on whether they will or will not put it back on the release schedule at some point. But again, that's left me to speculate. I think they did just because the trailer's been horrible and nobody's talking about this movie. And I think maybe they might wait until after Fantastic Beasts 2, see what kind of reception that gets. If it's positive, like his Comic-Con appearance was, I think they'll then put it back on the release schedule. But I don't know, do you guys have any theories about what happened with this movie, City of Lies, why they pull it off the release schedule, and if you think they're going to put it back on the release schedule, or do you think it's going to be sent quietly away to just die quietly somewhere? Jump into the comments section and let me know what you think. All right, next up on some breaking news here, one of the most interesting films coming up here pretty soon is a movie called Passing. Now, we've known for a little while that Ruth Negga and Tessa Thompson are going to be starring in the film. What I found out this morning that I think is very interesting is that the movie's going to be directed by Rebecca Hall. Now, Rebecca Hall, this will be her first film that she directs. This is a perfect movie for a first-time director, small, more intimate, character-driven story. But Rebecca Hall is one of my favorite actresses. What I didn't know is Rebecca Hall adapted the original novel. This whole thing is based on a 1929 novel called Passing. And I believe she adapted the book into a screenplay, and I guess they feel comfortable enough to hand her the reins to direct it. Again, Rebecca Hall is one of my favorite actresses. It's going to be really interesting to see what she can do. And I love the fact that her first directorial effort is going to be a smaller film like this. That's exactly the type of movie a first-time director should be cutting their teeth on. So I'm excited about that. Now, from what I understand, the movie Passing, it comes from the phrase racial passing, which, if I understand it right, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, was like a saying back in the 20s and 30s when somebody of a different ethnic background was accepted by another racial group. And they call that racial passing. It's called pass. So how that's going to play in the story, I don't know anything else about the story. I clearly never read the book. I'm not really caught up on my 1929 literature, I will admit. But just look, Ruth Negga, Tessa Thompson, with one of my favorite actresses, Rebecca Hall, directing. This sounds interesting. The premise of the movie sounds good. I'm excited for this. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. I can't wait to see what they do with it. Okay, with all that out of the way, it's time for us to get to our main topics today. And how do we select our main topics? Well, it's simple. You guys select the main topics by emailing to me. How do you email in a topic or a question to be one of our topics in the John Campea Show? It's simple. You just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. Put the word topic in the subject line. And as always, guys, keep those emails to 90 words or less. Once again, email me, john@thejohncampeashow.com. Put the word topic in the subject line and keep those emails to 90 words or less. All right, let's get on with it now with topic number 1. And the first email today comes to us from Vilmer Hernandez, who writes, I saw today that Robert Redford was officially retiring from acting. I remember watching Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and The Sting with my dad, and I was so excited when I heard he was going to be in the MCU in Captain America Winter Soldier. Do you think he's really done? And if so, what is your favorite Robert Redford movie? All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And yeah, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, that's one that my dad had around, like when we had the first time, like he would rent a VCR or something. That was one of the first movies he got. And I saw that there. It's an all-time iconic movie. Yes, it's Robert Redford. What a career. So he's got this new movie coming out. I believe it's called Old Man with a Gun. And the trailers look great. I'm really looking forward to this movie. I think it looks really good. But he's now saying that this is it. I'm done. He goes, I've been doing this since I was 21 years old, he said. It's time for me to hang it up. And he's willing to hang it up. Now, somebody then asked him if that meant he was retiring from directing as well, because he's also a very good director. And he said, well, we'll see. I'm not really sure about that. But he is retiring from acting. What is my favorite Robert Redford movie? I'm going to tell you what. It's not one of his more popular ones. Hold on, let me bring this over here because I don't think I brought it. I didn't, but it's not one of his. I'm not saying this is his best movie by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not saying this is his best movie, but it's probably my favorite. And it's one he did with Dan Aykroyd, I believe Dave Strathern. He did with River Phoenix, Sidney Poitier, James Earl Jones, and just a whole list of others. And it's a little film he did called Sneakers. And there he is, of course, with Sir Ben Kingsley, who's also in that film. I frickin' love Sneakers. Sneakers is awesome. Oh my God, guys, if you have not seen Sneakers. Now, there have been lots of movies that have come out with the whole notion of, I'm a security firm and it's my job to find the weaknesses in your security stuff, right? There have been a number of movies and TV shows that have followed that motif. Sneakers is the first one I ever remember seeing doing that. Sneakers was the first movie I saw that used that motif, that he runs the security thing. He's a former thief. He runs a security thing where he's hired by companies to try to break into them and break their security. He does and then recommends ways that they can tighten up their security. That's his job. Anyway, Ben Kingsley's amazing in it. The whole cast is just fantastic. If you guys have not seen that movie, you need to see it. And if this really is truly the end of the acting line for Robert Redford, all you can do is tip your cap and say, well done, sir. Well done. The influence that Robert Redford has had on this industry cannot be overstated. The man is a living icon and a legend. And he's given us some of the most memorable movies and most memorable characters. But yeah, and it was great seeing him in Captain America and all that kind of stuff. But I gotta say, for me, when I think Robert Redford, despite all the other all-time classics, for me, I'm going to be thinking of Sneakers. That's what I'm going to be thinking of. Wait, have you guys seen Sneakers? If so, what do you think? Jump down to the comment section. Let me know what you thought about Sneakers. All right, let's move on to the next topic. And the next topic today comes to us from Trevor Harder. I know Trevor Harder. I doubt this is the same one, though. Anyway, Trevor writes, I guess it's looking more and more that this whole Birds of Prey movie is happening. I just saw that the bad guy for the movie will be the Batman villain Black Mask, and they say they're going to start shooting in early 2019. Does the addition of Black Mask, who is a pretty great villain, change your outlook on the movie at all? All right, thanks a lot for the question, Trevor. And for those of you who did not hear, first of all, you know that there's a Birds of Prey movie coming. It's going to feature Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn and other characters as well. There's been some speculation that the villain of the film might have been Penguin. There were a few reports going around about that. But now it seems like it's going to be Black Mask. Again, the DC universe really treading hard on the Batman lore stuff, but that's fine. Black Mask is not one of the oldest members of the Batman's Rogues Gallery. I believe Black Mask didn't actually even really become a character till like the mid-'80s or something like that. So in the grand scheme of Batman lore, Black Mask is a relatively new character. When you're talking about how long and how far back Batman's Rogues Gallery goes. So the basic gist of Black Mask is this. He's like the ultimate crime lord in Gotham. He comes from a wealthy family. His real name's Roman. Murdered his own family. He had a real business, but he ran it to the ground, decided to become a big villain, blah, blah, blah. He's Black Mask. And he's been used in like the Arkham games. He's been used in the animated show. a couple times. I believe he was used in Birds of Prey, and not Birds of Prey, Under the Red Hood. So he's been used around a bit. With a movie like Birds of Prey, you're probably looking more for a villain, like a crime lord villain, like a Black Mask. That's why the idea of the Penguin wasn't so bad either, because Penguin ultimately is a underground arms dealer, crime lord sort of thing. It's the type of character that would work for a movie like Birds of Prey. He's a very good Batman villain. Does the announcement that Black Mask will be the villain alter my outlook on the movie Birds of Prey? No, I don't like the idea of the movie Birds of Prey. For whatever reason, I have no interest in it. Not nearly as much as other DC movies that are coming, like the next Wonder Woman film, Aquaman, Shazam, that kind of stuff. I'm not interested, though, in Birds of Prey. But whatever, maybe my mind will change. The addition of Black Mask doesn't do anything, because it doesn't matter what character you put in. It doesn't matter. The Fantastic Four movies, they used Galactus. They used Doctor Doom. But it doesn't matter unless they're written well and unless they're executed well. It doesn't matter. You could say Timmy from 7-Eleven is your villain in this movie. If you write him awesome, he could be the greatest on-screen villain of all time. So it all comes down to how they're going to execute on this. And look, this might be brilliant. I think it's a good move getting this type of a character in a movie like that. Let's wait and see how this starts to develop. As of right now, they're still like 6 months away from even starting to shoot this movie. A lot of things can change between now and then. But I will say, generally speaking, the idea of having Black Mask as your villain, it's a good fit. Now let's see if they can actually execute it. That's the important thing. All right, let's move on now to the next topic. And the next topic comes to us from Martin Toole, who writes, Warner Brothers is making a Supergirl movie now? Really? We still have no word on a Man of Steel 2, but they're making a Supergirl movie. What's worse is that they've got the guy who wrote the Cloverfield project, which just sucked. So, are they going to take the Supergirl TV show off the air? No, seriously, what the hell are they doing? All right, tell us how you really feel, Martin. All right, thanks a lot, Martin, for writing that in. So, for those who did not hear, it got reported yesterday, and this needs to be clarified here, because I had a bunch of people writing to me and says, John, they're making a Supergirl movie. Back up a little bit. No, there has been no official green light given to any kind of a Supergirl project. No Supergirl project is being made at this time. What has happened is that they're developing. Lots of projects go into development and often never see the big screen, never make it in front of the cameras. So right now, where they're at is that they're developing an idea. Whether or not it ever gets greenlit and actually is going to be put into motion and is going to be made a movie, that we don't know yet, but they're developing it. Lots of things get developed and never get made. So let's just keep that in mind for now. So let's not get too wound up here, Martin. Let's take a breath. Let's not get too wound up here right now. As far as the Cloverfield, that was horrible, whatever. But the guy's also written a couple of decent things, so I wouldn't worry about the writer. Right now, again, it's just development. They're just trying to see if they have something there that could work. And they want to get a script written, see what kind of ideas that triggers. Is this something that we think could actually stand on its own as a motion picture? It does raise some questions. Like, where the hell is Man of Steel 2? But what we could be seeing here is DC maybe moving more towards some of their auxiliary characters, like a Supergirl or something like that. I'll tell you what the big question mark for me is you made, if you're Warner Brothers, you made CW stop using Deathstroke in their CW universe. And Deathstroke, played by Manu Bennett, was one of the best characters in the CW universe. But because we might use Deathstroke in a movie, we can't let CW use Deathstroke anymore. And I've always been like, well, then what the hell is the point of keeping your movie universe and your TV universe separate if it's not to allow both sides to be free creatively to use characters? Like, if you're keeping your universes separate, why not let CW use Deathstroke? So my interesting thing here is what are you going to do with Supergirl now? I hate that show, but forget that for a second. What are you going to do with Supergirl? Are you going to pull Supergirl off the air? And if not, why don't you let CW use Deathstroke? I mean, there's a massive inconsistency here. Now, granted, I believe that inconsistency started before the Walter Hamada era at DC. And maybe Walter Hamada will put all this stuff straight. So granted, there's that. Now, for those of you who may not know, Man of Steel actually laid the groundwork for Supergirl in the Man of Steel prequel comic. Now, just before the release of Man of Steel, they put out like this primer comic to get you ready for the movie Man of Steel. And it's like it was a little one-shot comic issue that was like a prequel to Man of Steel. In that comic, Supergirl, thousands of years ago, lands on Earth as a part of a Kryptonian exploration thing, right? So she lands on her ship. She crash lands on Earth on her ship with her and one other dude. And there was drama that went on the ship, but we'll get into that another time. So the ship crashes. She wakes up, and the comic ends with her waking up, going out of the ship, and walking off into the nothingness of the winter wasteland. And that's how the comic ends. And that was thousands of years ago. Now, fast forward to Man of Steel. You remember Man of Steel, Superman finds that ship buried in the ice. And remember, he goes into the ship and he finds 2 life pods. One pod with a skeleton in it, and one pod was open with nobody in it. For those of us who read that comic, we know that was Supergirl, who thousands of years ago opened her pod, got out, and wandered off into the wasteland. Now, ever since then, there have been theories that Supergirl became like the Eve, if you will, of the Atlantean race, or of the Amazonians, or of which would explain why Atlanteans have superpowers, or Amazon women have superpowers, or whatever. There's all types of theories and everything that's gone around. Or that she herself just got buried in ice at some point, and at some point in the future she'd wake up. So it will be interesting to see if, as they develop this potential Supergirl movie, if they will build it on that mythology that they established in the Man of Steel prequel comic and then followed up with in Man of Steel with the empty pod, or whether they'll ignore that and just go a whole different route. Like maybe go a more traditional, maybe the route that the Supergirl TV show went, where she was actually launched to Earth at the same time as Kal-El, or whatever. It will be interesting to see what kind of direction it goes. It'll be interesting to see if this ever does actually get greenlit and put into a movie. For now, we're just kind of in a wait and see, and we'll see how this whole thing turns out. All right, let's move on now to the 4th topic. And the 4th topic today comes to us from Jeff Tran, who writes, "Hi, John. So after Dave Bautista tweeted that he's only going to do Guardians 3 because he's legally obligated to, he took it one step further by saying if Disney doesn't use James Gunn's Guardians 3 script, he's going to formally ask Disney to let him out of his contract, which sort of seemed like what he was, which sort of seems like what he wanted from the moment they fired Gunn. Does this sort of put Disney in a no-win situation?" All right. So we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but then there were more developments. So you guys will remember yesterday, Dave Bautista put out a tweet basically stating he doesn't want to do Guardians anymore. He said he'll do Guardians because he's legally obligated to. He said, "I will do what I'm legally obligated to." But that was basically him saying, I don't want to do this movie without James Gunn. Right? Because of the way James Gunn's being treated, this whole thing's been blown out of proportion, blah, blah, blah. You don't fire a guy over this, blah, 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 blah. So that was his basic statement. Some people, I remember dealing with some people on Twitter about this. Some people saying, Dave Bautista better be careful or Disney will fire him. And I'm like, what part of that tweet did you not understand? He is begging to be fired. He wants to be let out of this. Well, to follow that up, he did an interview yesterday where he clarified it even more, and he put it in no uncertain terms. This was what was just referenced in the email, but this is Dave Bautista's direct quote. He said, "Where I'm at right now is that if Marvel don't use that script," that's James Gunn's Guardians 3 script, "then I'm going to ask them to release me from my contract, cut me out, or recast me. I'd be doing James a disservice if I didn't." So, what was already kind of clear from his first tweet saying, "I'm just going to do this because I'm legally obligated," Dave Bautista is pretty much making it clear. He doesn't want to be in this franchise anymore. He's disgusted by the way Disney has treated James Gunn. He does not want to be in this franchise anymore, and he wants out. Of course, he can't get out unless Disney lets him because he's legally obligated to be there. So he's basically saying, I'm going to formally ask them to put me out, because he's saying if they don't use James's script, I want out. Well, Alan Horn has already said they're separating all ties with James Gunn, which means you can't use the script. So I don't think they're going to use his script. I mean, maybe they do, which would be great, but I don't think they're going to use his script. So Dave Bautista has just basically put Disney on notice. I want out. Let me out. The question, though, is, will Disney let him out? Because remember, Disney holds all the cards here. Like Dave Bautista already admitted, he is legally obligated to be in these movies. And if he's a professional, then if they do make him go in the movie, he's got to give it his best effort. Because they're going to give him a paycheck, he needs to give them his best performance. That's the way it's got to be. So I'm going to make that today's question of the day. I'm going to put this to you guys. Here's the question of the day today. Will Disney let Dave Bautista out of his contract? Will Disney let Dave Bautista out of his contract? Listen, guys, in the description of this video below, at the very bottom of the video description, there is a link to where you can answer, yes, Disney will let him out of playing Drax, or no, they're going to make him keep playing Drax. I want to know what you guys have to say. And actually, even though I just announced it, let's check in to see if any of you guys have voted yet. This will just take a second for the page to load. Anytime now. Here we go. The page is loading, and a whole bunch of you have already responded. So far right now, 57.5% of you are saying yes, they will let him out of his contract. 42.4% of you are saying no, they're going to keep making him play Drax. And you know what? I'm torn on it myself. I don't know which way Disney's going to go on this. It is basically a no-win situation. Because if you leave him in the movie, he's going to be vocal that he wanted James Gunn there, he didn't want to be there, blah, blah, blah. If you let him out of the movie, if you let him leave, then that's just going to bring a whole bunch more attention and drama to this whole thing. It is a tough position that Dave Bautista has just put Disney in. Again, right now, 57.5% of you are saying yes, they will let him out of the contract. 42.4% of you are saying no, they will continue to make him play Drax moving forward. I want to know what you guys think. Answer that question to the question of the day, and we will, of course, cover the results on tomorrow's John Campea show. It's already close. Let's see how close it sticks. With that being said, let me address something. And honestly, right up until about 2 or 3 minutes ago, I wasn't sure I was going to do this, but let me do it. And if you'll indulge me for a moment. I have struggled and wrestled a little bit with this whole James Gunn situation. And I've tweeted a lot about it, all that kind of stuff. And some people have said to me, you know, and I understand why. It's fair. It's fair. Some people have said to me, John, it kind of looks like you're a little bit obsessed with this situation. Why are you so invested in this James Gunn Disney situation? Why is this so? Why do you still keep tweeting about it? This is now a weeks old subject. I mean, the Dave Bautista thing is new, but overall, the subject is weeks old. Why are you so focused on this? And there's a couple of reasons. There's one big important one, and I'll get to the big important one here in a second. One of the reasons, the lesser important reason, is as a fan of Disney, and you guys know I'm a fan of Disney. I actually been getting people lately saying, John, why do you hate on Disney so much? It's like, I'm a big fan of Disney. I am a big fan of Disney. I'm a huge fan of Disney. Everybody knows I am. But I call BS when I see it. And I'm seeing in Disney's actions here a lot of BS. And here's why. Alan Horn, who was lying, by the way, Alan Horn comes up and says, oh, what James Gunn tweeted, not what James Gunn did, nothing James Gunn did, what James Gunn tweeted almost 10 years ago isn't consistent with the values of Disney, so we're splitting off our relationship with him. Really? Really, Alan Horn? He did something that isn't consistent. Let me rephrase. He didn't do anything, but he tweeted something. And that's not consistent with Disney's values. Really? You hypocrite. How about this little guy named Robert Downey Jr., who's been arrested multiple times for drugs, weapons, all that kind of stuff, has ruined TV shows and franchises he was a part of because of his behavior, and in 1996 was arrested while nearly killing people, driving while high on cocaine and heroin with a gun in the car. That's consistent with Disney values? Robert Downey Jr. didn't tweet about cocaine. Robert Downey Jr. didn't tweet about heroin. Robert Downey Jr. didn't put people's lives, tweet about putting people's lives at risk with a gun in the car and driving while high on cocaine and heroin. He didn't tweet about them. He did them. He did it. He puts people's lives at risk. And that's fine. That's fine. That's perfectly consistent with Disney values. Now, let me be clear. Robert Downey Jr., since that time, has turned his life around and has made good choices ever since doing all that kind of stuff years ago, and has made positive choices and has started acting in a totally different way. And I love the fact that a guy like that can recognize he was doing some wrong things, make choices that are better for himself and the people around him, and move forward with his life and enjoy success. I think that's great. I do. I applaud it. I think it's awesome. This is not me trashing on Robert Downey Jr., but it's trashing on the hypocrisy of Disney going, oh, James, who didn't actually do anything. He didn't physically do anything. He tweeted something. Robert Downey Jr. didn't tweet things. He did things, put people's lives at risks. Or how about James Brolin? Everybody's favorite, Thanos. In 2004, James Brolin was arrested for spousal battery. He hit his wife, who had to call the police, who had to come and arrest him. Hey, Alan Horn, is that consistent with Disney values? Is that consistent with... James Brolin didn't tweet about hitting his wife. He didn't make a terrible, untasteful joke about hitting his wife. He got arrested for spousal battery. And that's perfectly fine. That's completely consistent with Disney values, you silly little goose. Again, I am thrilled for Josh Brolin, who has turned his life around. He behaves differently. He changed his life and he's a different person now. And I am all for somebody doing that and being able to then move on and have success. I'm all for it. What about Ant-Man? What about this guy you put in Ant-Man, T.I.? He's been to jail on a number of occasions for drugs and weapons. Oh, but that's fine. No problem, says Alan Horn. That's not inconsistent with Disney values. That's perfectly fine. Mickey carries around, a key or two with a loaded Glock. No problem. Everything's fine. T.I. didn't tweet about drugs and guns. He actually went to prison for drugs and guns. He didn't just tweet about them. He didn't joke about them. He did them. And here he is in 2 Ant-Man movies. And again, he has in recent years shown that he's making better decisions for his life. And he's doing new things now. And I am all for that. I am. I am completely all for that. Now, though, let's get back to the whole James Gunn thing. James Gunn made idiotic, stupid, what I called IMM, idiot moron mouth comments years ago. He didn't do anything. He didn't physically do anything. He made horribly distasteful jokes. And here's the thing that drives me nuts. There are some people out there who are trying to make it sound like people are defending James Gunn's quotes. No, not at all. They were stupid. They were idiotic. They were distasteful. They were insulting. They were awful. They were terrible, terrible tweets. But they were tweets. He didn't carry a gun. He didn't put people's lives at risk. He didn't hit his spouse. He didn't do any of that stuff. They were tweets. I'm not defending the tweets. The tweets were horrible and stupid. But just as Robert Downey Jr., those things he did was years ago. He's made better choices for himself, and he's not that dude. Just like James Brolin has made better choices for himself, and he's not that dude. Just as T.I. looks like he's trying to make better choices for himself and grow as a person, all that kind of things. James Gunn wrote these things years ago, didn't do anything. He wrote these things years ago, made the choice for himself, saying, oh my God, these are idiotic. I shouldn't say shit like this. I'm going to stop. I'm not going to be that guy. And years ago changed. Years ago changed. And the hypocrisy I see out of Disney over this is sickening to me. Like, fine, you want to let go James Gunn? Then right now, you got to fire Robert Downey Jr., you got to fire James Brolin, you got to fire T.I., and you got to fire anybody else on anybody in your acting, directing, producing staff that has ever done anything inconsistent with the values of Disney, which itself has made several incredibly racist films in the past. It's that. But here's the big reason. Get personal just for a second, all right? Here's the big reason that I have been particularly, I'm not going to say obsessed, but very invested in this particular issue with James Gunn and all that kind of stuff. All right, I've never talked about this. I'm going to talk about it right now for a moment, and then we're going to move on from it. What is really infuriating to me is seeing people try to equate making horribly distasteful jokes about a subject, let's say like pedophiles, and actually being a pedophile. When I was a kid, I was sexually assaulted by a pedophile on a couple of occasions. I've never even told my family that. I didn't even really deal with it till I got to college, and then I got counseling when I was in college about it, and I've come to terms with it, and I'm fine. I'm fine. I saw counseling about it, and I'm good. And it wasn't, thank God, it wasn't anybody in my family, and I didn't have it anywhere nearly as bad as some other survivors of sexual assault at the hands of pedophiles who probably endured it for years and years and years. It happened to me on a couple of occasions. I have dealt with it. It's fine. But as somebody who has been through that, when I hear anybody, these fucking morons out there, who try to equate saying somebody tweeting a joke about something is just as bad as somebody who actually did it, I want to punch them in their stupid mouths, hold their heads underwater until they stop kicking. It's just infuriating to me. You talk to me or any other survivor of pedophilia about, hey, would you have rather the guy actually assault you or written some stupid, distasteful tweet about it? I dare you to come to me face to face and tell me they're just the same thing. That one's just as bad as the other. I dare you. I dare you. And that's where a lot of people try to take this. And that has infuriated me, seeing this discussion online where people try to equate somebody and don't seem to have the mental capacity of separating somebody who just thinks they're being provocative. Really, they're just being idiotic. And let's face it, James Gunn was being idiotic. Making stupid jokes and equating that. I'll say, oh, it's just as bad as that. Shut up. No, it's not. No, it is not. And you're just making yourself look idiotic by even pretending like it's the same thing. It is not the same thing. So, yeah, I get where Dave Bautista is coming from. Look, this is a dude who said some really stupid, ignorant things. But he himself realized they were stupid, ignorant things, and he decided, I can't be like that anymore. And he, on his own, and actions speak louder than words, on his own, he decided, I'm not going to act like that anymore years ago. He never did anything, but he made stupid tweets. Meanwhile, Disney fires him, not over anything he did, but tweets he made, but are perfectly fine having other dudes who actually physically did things, endangered people's lives, destroyed other people, all that kind of stuff. They have no problem with that. And so, yes, I will admit, I have been particularly invested in this issue because it is an abounding hypocrisy on a company that I really love, Disney. I do. But this is an abounding hypocrisy on Disney. But also because as somebody who has experienced some stuff in my past, it has enraged me to see the way some people try to use this as something that it is not. Anyway, all of that is to say, I applaud Dave Bautista for what he's taking a stand. Because you know what? Dave Bautista isn't the biggest star in Hollywood. If Chris Pratt were to walk from Guardians of the Galaxy, he'd get 20 other acting gig offers tomorrow. Dave Bautista's not, and he knows it. Dave Bautista knows it. He knows he's not the big Hollywood star. He knows he can't just walk from Guardians and expect to get 50 other acting offers on the table. He knows that, and yet, for principle, he's like, I'm willing to walk away from that anyway, because on principle, what you are doing to this man is wrong. And he's willing to stand up for that. And he's willing to give up the biggest acting job he will ever have in his life, and maybe even sacrifice his career to publicly say, I don't care how big you are, Disney. I don't care how powerful you are. What you're doing is wrong, and I'm not going to participate in it. And I respect that. I respect other actors not doing that. I respect other actors who want to just fulfill their contracts and fulfill their obligations. I respect that too. I'm not casting any shade on any of the other cast of Guardians. But that is why this has been an issue that has been particularly interesting and I've been particularly invested in. So anyway, thank you for indulging me, guys. I know I probably just bored half of you to tears with that, but thank you for indulging me nonetheless. All right, let's move on to some happier stuff. Let's go on to item number 5 here. Final emailed in question today comes to us from Fred F., who writes, greetings from Vancouver, British Columbia. I love Vancouver, British Columbia. Yesterday, I read that Antoine Fuqua is hoping to bring on Denzel for the lead role in the Scarface remake. I love this. I think their partnership has created solid movies in recent years. Plus, Denzel's amazing charisma and raw emotional acting is a great fit for a new reincarnation of Mr. Tony Montana. Your thoughts, thanks, and bring on the filthy. All right, thanks a lot for the email, Fred, and enjoy beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia. I love Vancouver, British Columbia. Yeah, this is actually a story that came out nearly a week ago, but basically, Antoine Fuqua, who has directed now Denzel Washington in 4 films, 4 good films, Equalizer 1, Equalizer 2, The Magnificent Seven, and Training Day, which Denzel won an Academy Award for. So they have been a director-actor combo for a number of years, worked on a number of projects together. A lot of people know Antoine Fuqua is currently trying to get a Scarface remake done with a certain vision of it, and he really wants Denzel Washington. Now, he said that Denzel is still refusing to do it. He said Denzel told him, Al Pacino did that role great. I don't want to do it. Which you totally get where Denzel's coming from, right? Like, it's not like you're trying to step into the shoes of somebody who did a bad job with the role. You're talking about stepping into the shoes of one of the most iconic performances in Hollywood history. And Denzel's like, nah, Pacino did that. I'm good. But he's still saying he's still trying to nudge him towards doing it. Now, look, is Denzel the perfect choice to play a character like this? Honestly, no. He's not the perfect choice. He's not the best fit. However, that being said, were they to cast him in something like this, oh my God, it would be, look, Denzel's just, he is an apex talent, right? He is the upper echelon, he's the top shelf of the A-list department. He's up there. He's in he's amongst 7 or 8 names that are like the true apex actors in the business right now. He's just got that level of talent. And we've already seen what he and director Antoine Fuqua can do together and what kind of stuff they can produce together. That sheer level of talent would make me go, yeah, okay, give that a shot. Maybe if it wasn't Antoine Fuqua, I'd go, yeah, Denzel, don't get involved in that. But we've already seen what these two guys can do together, especially in things like Train Day. I thought Magnificent Seven was really good. So I'd be all for this. Now, like I said, this was actually news that came out about a week ago, but to me, it's fascinating. Now, I don't know that this will actually happen. I don't even know that this movie's ever actually even going to get made, to be frank with you. But if it does, there would be much, much worse you could do than to get Denzel Washington in there, especially when you're considering pairing him up with the director he's had a lot of success with. Can he get over that Al Pacino already did it great mental block that he's got? I don't know. That's a big one to get over. But I hope he does. I think it'll be good. But then again, there's other actors that he could cast, that Fuqua could cast, who would also do a terrific job. Let's see if this thing even actually materializes at all. Okay, guys, that'll do it for the main topics today. We're going to take a little bit of time now and take some of your live questions. A bunch of you guys have been sending in live questions. We've already gone a little bit over time because I ran on about the whole James Gunn thing. My apologies about that, guys. But let's get on to the live questions now. We still got about 15 minutes or so. Zombitron5678 writes, that moment when you realize the best moment in Infinity War is when a Viking god with an electric axe, a living tree, and a talking raccoon come to save the day. Look, and this is why whenever anybody asks me, whenever somebody says to me, John, could a movie about this work? I always say, anything can work. If you write it well, execute it well, develop it right, all that kind of stuff, anything can work. And I often go to the Lego movie, right? It's like, you made a movie about Legos. You made a movie about plastic building blocks. And it was awesome. If you can do that, you can make anything into a movie, including Felipe, the sentient dancing microphone. This is another great example. A movie where a Viking god with an electric axe, a talking raccoon, and a living tree come down. Can you make a movie out of that? You can make a good movie out of anything. If it's written, it's all about execution. It's all about execution. So I'm completely with you, Zombitron. That's one of the reasons why I always say anything can be a good movie. Doesn't mean it will be, but anything can be. Cobra writes, finally saw Ant-Man and the Wasp. Personally, I think it's one of Marvel's best in a while, and my new third favorite MCU film. See, I liked it very much too. I didn't like it as much as you do, Koba, but it is a fun, entertaining movie. It's a really good palate cleanser too. This is the best way I knew how to describe it. It was a really great palate cleanser coming out of the heaviness of Infinity War to something just light, fun, and entertaining. And I thought they pulled it off great. I still prefer the first Ant-Man myself over Ant-Man and the Wasp, but Ant-Man and the Wasp just had it all. It's a great night out at the movies. I enjoyed it a great deal. I'm glad you did too, man. James Welsh writes, without Guardians of the Galaxy, Bautista would not be as big as he is now. I know he is angry, but I think down the line he will regret what he is saying. No? I don't think so. I think look, I've spoken to a lot of guys. And I've obviously had the chance to sit down and speak with Dave Bautista on a number of occasions. He was the first celebrity. Remember when we did the 24-hour Philippines typhoon relief marathon? Dave Bautista was the first celebrity to step and say, hey, I want to help. What can I do? And I've had the chance to sit down and talk with him on a number of occasions. He is one of the most humble, grounded guys you will ever meet in Hollywood. Like dead serious. One of the most humble and grounded guys you will ever come across in Hollywood. He knows. But Bautista is also very good with his money. He's got enough money in his bank account to live the rest of his life comfortably and for his children to live pretty comfortably for the rest of their lives too. He's fine. To Bautista, who's all about family and loyalty and stuff like that, he wouldn't regret I think, if anything, he would regret doing the movie. Unless, and I said this on the show yesterday, unless Disney can talk to James Gunn and get James Gunn to talk to Bautista and say, hey, big guy, listen, I appreciate you supporting me, but I want Guardians of the Galaxy 3 to get made. And I want you playing Drax in it. So maybe if Disney can talk, and I wouldn't be surprised if Disney is communicating with James Gunn to try to get James to communicate with Dave. Maybe that could change his mind, but honestly, Dave Bautista is not your prototypical Hollywood movie star who just wants more fame and more success. He just loves getting to do what he gets to do, but his principles come first. And I've always got that sense, and he knows he wouldn't be anywhere near as big as he is in Hollywood if it wasn't for Guardians of the Galaxy. He knows that, but he's willing to give it up, and I got to admit, I admire his principles on that. Curtis Lopez writes, saw an early screening of Spike Lee's movie Black Klansman. It's funny and satirical, yet heavy and powerful. One of the best movies. You know what? I've got it playing. It's playing at a theater here in LA this week. And I actually emailed a buddy of mine yesterday to see if he'd go with me to go see it, because I just don't like going out I don't like driving out all that way by myself, because it's in another part of town. But I'm looking forward to seeing that. I think the trailers have been very funny. I'm excited about it. And I'm hearing good things. You're not the first person to say good things about Chris. I've heard other people say good things too, but I'm glad you had a chance to see it, and I'm glad you can verify that you really enjoyed it. Thanks for sharing that, man. Derek Large writes, how did you find the motivation to write The Pride? I have some great ideas, but lack the discipline to actually sit down and write on a daily basis. I am a guy that I like to do what everybody says they'll do but never do. You know, everybody says they'd love to make their own movie, so I just said, screw it, I'll find a way to make my own movie. And I made a movie. It's not the greatest movie in the world, but I made it, and I'm proud of that, and I found a way to do it. Everybody says they'd love to write a book. I did too. I had an idea for a story, and I said, I'm going to do it. And you're right, you used the magic word, Derek, it's discipline. You just got to have the discipline to do it. It took me 5 years to do The Pride. It takes discipline, everything, but it's just a matter of putting tucking your chin in and go. Make it happen, do it, make the time, stay disciplined, all that kind of stuff. It's just, and then at some point, it's just got to the point, it's like, damn it, I've been working on this 3 years, I got to finish it. Damn it, I've been working on it 4 years, I got to finish it. So then it just becomes like a grudge you have against yourself. So yeah, just do it, man. Just do it. David Hendry writes, hey, John, I once downloaded The Death of Superman Lives on a torrent site. I feel like an ass for that. Do you know where I can buy the movie in the UK? Well, I don't live in the UK, David, and I have no idea. I'm sure if you can probably just order it off the Death of Superman Lives What Happened website. And for those of you who don't know, that's the great John Schnepp's documentary that he did with his girlfriend, fiance, producing partner, Holly. Wonderful documentary. Check it out when you get the chance. But yeah, you should be able to just search for the official website of The Death of Superman Lives What Happened. You should be able to find an option there for buying it, I believe. I don't live in the UK, so I don't know how you get in the UK, but I'm sure there's ways there to get it from there. So just go check that out. Tacky75 writes, Bautista is also half Greek. Don't ignore us. I remember hearing that he is part Greek. That's right. I'm more familiar with his Filipino side because my family is Filipino on my wife's side. So that's why they all love Bautista so much. So I even have a traditional Filipino formal wear called a barong. I own a barong. And so when the last time I went to go interview Dave Bautista, it was for that James Bond movie he was in. I showed up in a barong and he just freaked out because you're wearing a barong. I said, I thought to honor you, your heritage. He thought it was hilarious. So anyway, there you go. But you're right. He is also partly Greek. Rohit Mukundan writes, so will we ever see black suit Spidey in the MCU? Oh, I doubt it. I don't think so. And I don't even know how much longer we're going to see Spider-Man in the MCU at all. I mean, that's the other reality here. I mean, forget, are we going to see a black suit Spider-Man? Probably not. But the question is, are we even going to have Spider-Man in the MCU for much longer? Because the deal between the MCU and Sony is running out. I believe after Far From Home, the deal's over. And as far as I know, they have not extended that deal yet. They have plenty of time to work it out. They have lots of time to work it out. But as of right now, they have not extended that deal. As of right now, after Spider-Man Far From Home, Spider-Man goes back to the Sonyverse. So, I don't know. But no, I don't think we're going to see the black costume Spider-Man in the MCU. I don't think they're going to go that way. Let's see. Jorge Sosa writes, I would rather have Taika direct Thor 4 than Guardians. Oh, I agree. But I think Taika Waititi would do a great job directing Guardians 3. And I know Taika Waititi and James Gunn get along great. I was actually sitting like 8 seats away from them as the two of them were hanging out and laughing at one of the premieres. I mean, so I know they get along great. I think Taika's sensibilities for Guardians of the Galaxy would be great. Not as great as James Gunn's, but would be great. But yeah, I agree. If I had a choice that I can either have Taika Waititi direct another Thor movie or direct Guardians of the Galaxy, I would rather him direct another Thor movie. He's got a with the Thor character. But at the same time, I with the Thor character. But at the same time, I with the Thor character. But at the same time, I wouldn't bristle at the idea of Taika Waititi doing a Guardians movie. Comic game. When will we get Daredevil Season 3? I believe, we just talked about this the other day, I believe they're going to be making an announcement soon. I think this year? Or early 2019, one of the two. Anyway, it's soon enough. It's coming. It's coming soon enough. Just do a quick Google search. I remember I Googled it the other day, found it really quick. But it's either later this year or early 2019. But it's coming. It's on its way. History Soup writes, Lucifer Theory, Charlotte returns as Angel. I don't think so because that's not, humans don't become angels. Hold on a second. I'm getting a problem with my feed here. Let me just double check, see what's going on. Huh. I keep getting, I don't know if you guys can see what's going on. I keep getting a videos unavailable thing. No, it seems to be back. It comes on and then it's off. Are you guys having any problems with the stream right now? Just let me know if you guys are having problems with the stream. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep going.